Welcome back to another Heavy Gear Blitz battle report. Today we'll be playing a 125 point TV point game with 3 groups, 3 objectives each, and we will be fighting in the south of Terra Nova. The Nucoal and Peace River forces have discovered some intelligence of importance down here in a south facility, and are both trying to claim it. So that is what we're doing down here in this jungle. We have several buildings, and then we have some swamps, which will be difficult ground. Also, these jungle patches will be difficult ground as well, while also providing partial cover. So with that, we'll go ahead and take a look at the units and the objectives. Alright, here is my 125 point TV point Nucoal list. The commanding officer will be this guy, a Chevalier Hammer. So I have 2 Chevalier Hammers, and then 2 Jerboa Flash units. And then we have 2 Cuirassier Grenadiers and 2 Cuirassier Long Gunners. The squad leader is upgraded with CV. And then lastly, we have 2 Chasseur Flashettes, and then 2 regular base Chasseurs. The combat leader, or the group leader, is upgraded with CV as well. Alright, and for the objectives for Nucoal, I chose hold, capture, and wipe them out. I'm trying to wipe out the base warriors group. And then for my objectives, the capture objective is right there and there. And then my hold objectives are here and there. And here we have the Peace River force. The combat leader will be this Crusader 4 with his axe up in the air. So we have 2 Demolition Crusader 4s, or Demolisher Crusader 4s. They've all been upgraded to Crusader 5. And then we have 2 Skirmisher units upgraded with Chieftain and Tag. And then we have 2 Sweeper Warrior 4s and 2 Base Warrior 4s. And the group leader has been upgraded with Spectre and Chieftain. And then lastly, we have 2 Scourge Warriors and 2 Vanguard Warriors. The group leader, right there, he's been upgraded with Spectre and Chieftain as well. Alright, and for Peace River's objectives, she also took hold and capture and wipe them out. She is attempting to wipe out my Chasseurs group. And then for her hold objectives, She has this one and this one. And her capture objectives are right there and there. Alright. Nucoal will be on that side, while Peace River is on this side. So that will do deployment and begin the battle. Alright, we have deployed our forces. I have a Chevalier Hammer and a Jerboa on my left. Two of my Cuirassiers and my Chevaliers, or Chasseurs, in the middle. And then on the right flank, all three of my groups. Two Cuirassiers, two Chasseurs, and the Hammer and Jerboa. And then for Peace River, we have a Crusader and a Skirmisher in the middle, or right flank more like. Two of the Warriors with the Vanguard and the, Scourge? Yeah, I think so. And then we have a Crusader 4 and a Skirmisher in the middle here. Two Warrior 4s, two more Warrior 4s, and the other Warriors on the left flank. So with that, we'll go ahead and start the initiative. See who goes first. Got a 4. And a 5 for Peace River gets first activation. Alright, Peace River activation. First, she activated the Crusader 4's group. And so she went top speed with the Crusader 4. And then is firing indirectly at my Jerboa. And with AoE 4, she'll be hitting all 4 of these. So AoE, or we'll go with the Jerboa first. I need a 3. She needs a 4. So that is a 5, 6 for me, and a 3 for her, so that'll miss. And then we'll do my hammer, which is a 4, I believe.
I got a 1.
It's a 4. So 5, 6 for me, so that passes as well. Next up, we'll do my Cuirassier. 5, 6. Pass. And then my Chasseurs, which are 4s. It's a 5, a 1, also miss, and then we'll do the next one, which is also a 4, and a 3 for her, which also misses. So nothing hits. Alright, and then we'll move on to the rest of her group activation. Next up, this Crusader 4 did a top speed movement onto that objective, and it's going to fire into my long gunner, my Cuirassier. She'll be rolling 1 die because she went top speed and is not in optimal range. So she needs 4s to my 3s. That's a 4 for me, a 4 for you, that misses. Actually, what is AP1? I'll double check that one. Okay, her roll was 4, mine was 4, so that equals, so that counts as a hit, dealing 1 damage with 8 damage to my 7 armor. So my long gunner takes 1 damage. Alright, moving on. Next up, her skirmisher did a combat speed forward and is going to fire into my long gunner as well. She needs a 4 to my 3. It's 5, 6, and that is a 5 to a 6 for her. So that hits. What's the damage?
6.
Damage 6, armor 7. So that does not do anything. Alright, and then we'll move on to our other skirmisher. And this skirmisher did a combat speed as well, and is going to fire into my Chasseur Flechette right here. So I need 4s to her 4 as well. That's a 4 for me, and double 1s for her, which is a miss. And with that, we'll move on to Nucoal's activation. Alright, and I've decided to activate my Cuirassiers. I'm going to start with this long gunner. He's going to brace and fire into her Crusader. I need, this is a precise weapon, and I have a gunnery skill of 3 to her piloting skill of
4.
Oof, that's a total miss. Alright, moving on. Alright, moving on. This long gunner is also going to brace, and he's going to fire in at this Scourge Warrior. So this will be 3 dice to her 3 dice. For the partial cover, I need 3s to her 4s.
Yep.
That is 5, 6, 7 with the precise to her 5. Alright. Large success. So that's 2. Plus damage. So that'll be damage 8 to your armor.
My armor is 6.
6. So 4 damage. 4 damage to the Scourge. And then we'll move on to the next one. Alright. My Cuirassier did a top speed movement forward and is going to fire into her Crusader. I'm using 1 dice. So this will be a 3 to hit to her 4. That's a 5. 4, just a 4. That hits. Okay, so margin of success of 1 plus damage 7. So, what's your armor?
My armor is 8.
Okay, so it's just 8 damage. It does nothing, unfortunately. Actually, AP 1, and we'll do 1 damage with the AP value. Alright, and then we'll move on to the next one. Alright, lastly, we got my other Grenadier, who did another top speed movement, and is going to fire into her Skirmisher. So, need a 3, and that's a miss. Don't even need to roll. Oh yeah, definitely a miss. Alright, and then we move on to Peace River's activation. Alright, and for Peace River's activation, she activated her warrior group. So this Scourge that is crippled moved forward, combat speed, and it's going to fire into my Grenadier right here. So I need 3s to her 4s. That is a 4-5 for me, and a 5 for her, so that hits. Large success of 0. What's the damage?
7.
7. Armor 7 as well, so that does no damage. You got AP on that?
I got AP 1.
Okay, so you do 1 damage. Alright, moving on to the next one. Alright, next up, her other warrior, Vanguard, did a combat speed forward and is going to fire into the Grenadier as well. She's using her burst. I need 3s. That's a 5-6 for me. And just a 3, so that misses. Alright, moving on. Next up, this Vanguard did top speed movement forward and is going to fire into this Grenadier here. She's using burst with this one as well. So I need 3s. That's a 5-6 for me. And nothing for her. There's another miss. And then we'll move on to her last warrior and then back to Nucoal's activation. Alright, this Scourge does a top speed movement forward and is going to fire into my long gunner here, who is braced. So I need a 3 to her 4. Got it. And she got a 6. Oof. So margin of success of 3. What's the damage?
The damage is 7.
7. So 9 minus an armor of 7. So 2 damage to my long gunner. And he is now crippled. Alright, on to Nucoal's activation. Alright, I've decided to activate the Jerboa, which did combat speed forward onto this objective, and then with a 36 sensor range, I'm calling a forward observation on that Scourge there out in the open. So I need a 4. Got it. And then I will react with the hammer and fire my heavy MG. I believe that's the right one. I'll double check, but I'll be firing with a reaction into that Scourge. Alright, this will be a reaction with the LFG light field gun, not the HMG. So, and I'm taking the AP3 ability with it. So this will be 2 dice hitting, needing 4s to hit versus her 3, because she will get partial cover for firing through the jungle here. And she needs 4s as well. That's a 5, 6 for me, and a 6 for you, so that will hit. Margin of success of 0, plus the damage is damage 9, armor?
6.
6. So that'll deal 3 damage to that Scourge. And then we'll move on to the next model. Alright, next up, that Chevalier activated. I did a combat speed forward and gonna fire into that Scourge again to try and take him out. I need 4s. I have precise on this. So that's a 4, 5 with precise, and that is a 5, 6 for her, so that misses. Alright, moving on. Alright, and we're going to do the same thing on this side. My Jerboa did a combat speed forward and is going to do a observation on that Scourge down there that is crippled. Any reactions to this?
No, I don't think there's something doing this.
Alright, 4s, got it. And then we'll do the reaction fire with the hammer. So this will be, I'm going to use my, well, let me double check the rules, make sure I do everything correctly. Alright, so with the LFG, I'm taking the AoE 3 and Blast. So it'll be hitting that guy and hitting the one next to it. So because of Blast, you don't get the defense modifier, but I do only get 1 because I do not have a direct line of sight with the Chevalier. But I get the Blast benefit because the Jerboa has line of sight. So I need a 4. I got a 5 or 3, so that definitely hits. And that's 5 plus 9, which I believe, so that'll be 14 damage to your Scourge, which has an armor of
6.
6. So you take 8 damage.
Yeah, he's out.
Yep. So he gets completely wiped out, I believe. Yep.
Yep.
And then my 1 die against the other Vanguard. 2 dice. That'll miss.
Okay.
Alright, moving on. Alright, and then that Chevalier did a combat speed forward onto that objective and is going to fire with the rifle into her skirmisher. So I need 4s. Oh, that completely misses.
I just need 3.
Yeah, I missed anyways.
Okay.
Alright, and that ends the activation for my group. So we go back to Peace River. Alright, this Warrior 4 did a top speed forward and is going to fire into my Grenadier here. And she's using burst. So we both need 3s. That's a 5 for me. Nothing for her, so that misses. Moving on. Alright, next up, this Warrior 4 did a top speed movement forward and then is going to fire into my Grenadier as well. She's using the frag. So both need 3s. That's a 5 for me. And a 6, 7 for her. So margin success of 2. What's the damage?
I check. It is 6.
Okay, so 8. Armor 7. So it deals 1 damage to the Grenadier. Alright. On to the next one. Alright. This Warrior 4 does top speed movement forward and is going to fire burst into my Jerboa. So she needs 3s and I also need 3s. That's a 5 for me. 5, 6 for her. Armor or damage?
Damage is 6.
So 7 damage total versus the Jerboa's armor of 4. So 3 damage. Said 7, right? Alright, or 6 damage plus 1, right?
My damage was a 6.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Alright, moving on. Alright, and lastly, this Warrior 4 did top speed into the jungle here and is going to fire into my Grenadier. So we both need 3s to hit. That is a 6, 7 for me. Nothing for her. That misses. On to Nucoal's activation. Alright, I've activated my Chasseur, which did combat speed forward and is going to fire with burst into her Warrior 4. So I need 4s to her 3s. That is a 6. 4, 5. So margin success of 1. Plus damage 6. What is your armor?
6, 7.
7.
Yep, 7.
No damage. Alright, moving on. Next up, this Chasseur Flechette did top speed or combat speed forward and is going to fire with the frag into her Warrior 4 as well. So 2 dice. I need 4s, 3 dice for me. So that's a 6, 7. There are 4. So that'll be 3 plus damage 6. So 9 damage versus armor 7.
Yep.
Okay. 2 damage to the Warrior 4. And then we'll move on. Alright, next up, this Chasseur did top speed movement over here on this objective and is going to fire into her Skirmisher 4. So I need a 4 to hit. That's a 6. Nothing. Oof, that's bad. Okay, so that's 12 damage versus armor 7. So that'll be 5 damage to that Skirmisher 4. Or Warrior 4. Moving on. And lastly, this Chasseur Flechette did top speed movement forward onto that objective and is going to fire with the frag into her Scourge. This will be 2 dice hitting on 4s. That's a 5, 6. And you needed a 4, I believe, right?
I need 3s.
3s?
Mm-hmm.
With the piloting skill?
Yes.
Oh. Okay. So 6. So it's margin success of 3 plus damage 6. That's 9 damage versus armor 7.
Yep.
2 damage to your Scourge. And with that, we go to round 2. Alright, correction, that was a piloting skill 4, so that Scourge gets wiped off the board. And now we go on to initiative for round 2. It's a 5 for me, 5 for her, reroll. 6, 5. All right. Nucoal gets initiative. Round 2. All right. First up, my Jerboa did a combat speed forward over here, and it's going to attempt a forward observation on her Warrior 4 here. But she's going to react by trying to jam me. So, this will be an electronic warfare roll. I have ECM plus, so I get a +1 die. And I need 4s. What do you need?
Is it EW? Or
Yes.
Okay, 3 then.
Alright, 2 dice. Oh, and that is a complete failure on me. So that succeeds. Alright, battery cut out there. So with her success, she successfully jams my Jerboa and prevents it from doing a forward observation. And we'll move on to the next model. Alright, next up, my Chevalier is going to brace and fire into her sweeper. This will be 3 dice versus her 3 dice. I need 4s. There's a 5, 6.
I need 3.
With precise. So that would be 7 for me. And a 5, 6 for you. So it's mark success with 1. Plus 8 damage. Total of 9 versus armor 7.
Yes.
Alright, 2 damage to that warrior. And then we'll move on to the next one. Alright, moving on. We have a little minor correction. The electronic reaction from her was not from this unit, but from her other skirmisher. That's why it was an electronic warfare of 3. So that passes, and then moving on. My other Jerboa is going to do a forward observation on this guy. And again, she is going to react and try to jam me with her skirmisher. So I need 4s to her 3s. That is a 6, 7 for me. And a 6, 7 for her. And I believe that passes if it meets the value. So that will jam their Jerboa. Alright, next up my Chevalier did a combat speed over here to get line of sight on her sweeper. And is going to fire in there with the long rifle. So this will be a 4 to hit versus her 3.
Yep.
That is a 4 with precise, bringing me to 5 versus her 6. That'll miss. Alright. And with that, we go to Peace River's activation. Alright, Warrior 4 does a combat speed forward and is going to fire into my flechette here. Right? This one?
Yes.
Alright. So I need 4s to her 3s. That is a 6, 7 for me. She used burst. So that's 4, 5 for her, which misses. Moving on. Alright, next up, the sweeper does combat speed forward and is going to fire in that same flechette. She's using the AP2 precise ability on her weapon. So I need 4s. That is a 6, 7, and a miss for her as well. Moving on. Alright, next up, this Warrior 4 sweeper is going to brace and fire into my Grenadier. She's using frag. So this will be my 2 dice versus her 4. Both needing 3s. Ooh, that's a 7 for me. And 4, 5, 6 for her. So that will miss. Doesn't have precise, does it?
No.
Nope. Alright, that'll miss. Moving on. And lastly, this crippled Warrior 4 will brace and fire with burst into my Grenadier. Both needing 3s. That is a 5 for me. And 6, 7 for her. So marked excess of 2 damage on the weapon.
6.
So 8 versus armor of 7. So I take 1 damage. Bringing me to 3. And I am crippled. And then we move on to Nucoal's activation. Alright, and for Nucoal's activation, I activated this Chasseur Flashette here, who's going to brace and use his frag into your Warrior 4. So that'll be 5 dice versus her 2. I need 4s, she needs 3s. So that's a 4-5, and nothing for her. So that'll be 5 plus damage 6 for 11 damage versus armor 7.
Yep.
So that'll be 4 damage, which will take it out, I believe, right?
Yep.
Alright, it is a wreck. Actually, what was that? 6 damage?
Yep, 6 damage.
So that blows it up entirely. Alright, moving on. Next up, this Chasseur did combat speed forward and is going to fire into her sweeper. So this will be you know what? I'm not in optimal range because I'm too close. So this will be 2 dice versus her 2. This will be 4s for me, 3s for her. And it's a 4. 0 for her, so margin is 4 plus 6, so 10 damage versus armor 7, so 3 damage to the Warrior 4. Moving on. Next up, this Chasseur is going to brace and fire into her crippled Warrior 4. So I need 4s, and I'm using burst. She needs 3s. So that's a 4 for me. And a 4 for her, so that'll still hit. Marked excess of 0. 6 damage versus 7 armor. Does nothing. Alright, moving on. And lastly, this Chasseur Flechette's going to fire into her Warrior Vanguard. I am bracing and using frag. So we both need 4s. That is a 6, 7. Versus a 6, marked excess of 1. Damage 6 brings it to 7. Armor?
Armor 6.
6, so you take 1 damage to that warrior. And then we go on to Peace River's activation. Alright, Peace River activating with the Crusader 4, which is going to fire the medium rocket pod into my Grenadier. She is bracing. So she needs 4s to my 3s. There's a 4. Nothing for her. 3 1s. Look at that. It's bad rolling. I get 2 because of partial cover. Moving on. And lastly, this Crusader 4 will also fire a medium rocket pod into my Flechette. It did a combat move. So I will need 4s. And she will need 4s as well. That's a 6, 7. Versus 7 as well, so that will hit. Damage?
8.
8. Armor 6, that's 2 damage to my Flechette. And then it goes back to Nucoal's activation. Alright, and for Nucoal, I activated my Grenadier, which is a combat speed forward, and firing a frag round, or is it frag? Burst. Burst round with a grenade launcher into her Warrior Sweeper. So both needing 3s. That is a 4 for me. And a 5, 6 for her, so that misses. Moving on. Alright, and this Grenadier will do the same thing. Combat speed forward, firing a burst round into her Sweeper. This will be 3 dice this time, hitting on 3s versus her 3s as well. So that's a 5, 6 versus a 6 as well. So that will hit. Damage 7 versus armor 7.
Yes.
So that will do. It is AP 1. So that will do 1 damage. Bringing it to 3.
Crippled.
And then we move on. Alright, next up, my long gunner here is going to brace and fire at that flechette or that sweeper as well. So this will be 2 dice versus her 1 die because she is crippled. And she braced. So that is a 6, 7 versus a 6. So that'll be margin success of 1. Damage 8, so that's 9 damage versus armor 7. Taking 2 damage to him. Leaving him with 1 left. 1 structure left. Alright, next one. Lastly, we got this long gunner. Did combat speed forward and is going to fire into her sweeper. This will be 2 dice versus her 1. She is crippled. And my gun has precise. I got to remember that. So I need 3s. She needs 3s as well. So it's 5, 6 with precise. And that sweeper is gone. And then with that, we go on to Peace River's last activation. Alright, and for Peace River activation, we got this Vanguard here is going to fire into my flechette. It is going to brace and...
Burst.
Does it have burst with the Vanguard?
Vanguard. Oh, yes, he has burst 1.
Okay. 4 dice. Needing 4s. That's a miss. And that is a 6. So that'll wipe him out. This one. First kill for Peace River. Moving on. Alright, lastly we got this warrior which did a combat speed over to the left and is going to fire into my flechette, who is braced, but I do have cover. So I need 4s, and are you burst?
I'm burst, yeah.
Alright. Needing 4s. That's a 6, 7 on my end. And 5, 6, 7 on her end. So that'll be damage.
7.
Damage 7 versus armor 6. So that'll deal 1 damage. Oh wait, do you have precise? Or is it precise or burst?
It's or
Okay.
precise.
So that'll do 1 damage. And I am crippled. Alright, and with that we go to round 3. Alright, initiative roll. That's a negative for me, and Peace River gets first activation. Alright, first up, she's going to activate her crippled Warrior 4 over here, which will brace and fire with burst into my Grenadier, who's also crippled. So I just got 1 die, both needing 3s. 5 for me, and a 5 for her. Damage?
6.
Armor 7, so that will do nothing. Moving on. Alright, and lastly for that group, we got this Warrior 4 who's bracing and firing into my Grenadier as well with her sweeper. She is using the AP precise function. Alright, both needing 3s. That's a 2 for me and a 4 for her. That'll hit.
Damage is 6.
Damage is 6. That's 10 damage. Armor 7. 3 damage goes through. That will destroy that Grenadier as a wreck. Alright, and then we move on to Nucoal's activation. Alright, I've decided to activate my Cuirassiers. So we'll do the Long Gunner, who braced, and is going to fire in at this crippled Warrior 4. So I need 3s. She needs 3s as well. That is a 4. So that's 6, 7, 8, 9 with precise. So that is a margin success of 5 plus 8 damage. So that, and that's 13 total. Armor 7.
Yep.
6 damage goes through, which will destroy that Warrior 4 completely. Moving on.
Easy.
Alright, next up, combat speed with the Grenadier onto this objective, and is going to fire with burst into the crippled Warrior 4. So we both need 3s. That is a 4 for me, and a 4 for her. So that hits. Damage 7, armor 7.
Yes.
AP 1. So we'll do 1 damage to that Warrior 4, which will wreck it. Alright, moving on. And lastly, we got this long gunner who's going to brace and fire at the skirmisher. So, 2 dice, both needing 3s. And I have precise, so that's 5, 6, 7 versus 4, 5. So it's 2 plus 8. So that's 10 damage versus armor.
5.
So that skirmisher takes 5 damage.
Oof.
And it is crippled. And then with that, we go to Peace River's activation. Alright, and for Peace River activation, we're going to activate the Vanguard Warrior, and it's bracing and firing with precise into my Chasseur. So, both needing 4s. That's a nothing for me. And that is a 6 for her, plus damage. That's 7 with precise.
Damage is 7.
So 14 minus armor of 6. So that will be 8 damage. That Chasseur gets annihilated. Alright, on to the next one. And lastly, this warrior is going to fire with a precise. It did brace. It's going to fire into my Jerboa, who has cover. So I need 3s, you need 4s. That is a 5, 6 for me. Ooh, that is 6, 7, 8, 9 versus my 5. So that's 4 margin of success. Damage.
7.
Okay, so that's 11 damage total versus my armor of 4. So that'll be 7 damage. That Jerboa gets annihilated. Peace River is making a small comeback. Let's see if it counts. On to Nucoal's activation. Alright, I activated the Chevalier Hammer, which did combat speed over, and for its first action, it is going to fire the field gun into her skirmisher using the AP 3 ability. So this will be 2 dice versus her 1. I need 4s, she needs 3s. That is a 6 and a 3, so 3 plus 9, that's 10 damage. Armor 5, 5 damage. It is destroyed. Does it wreck? Alright, and then for my second action, we will fire the long rifle, into your Vanguard. And this will be precise. This is 2 dice versus your 2 dice. Both 4s, needing 4s. There's a 4 becoming a 5. Nothing for her. And that is 8 damage. So 13. You want to re-roll?
Yeah.
Spend a command point. Alright.
2 dice? Still?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing. So, I think that's worse, isn't it?
I think so.
So that is destroyed completely. With the 5 plus 8, yeah, 13 damage versus armor 7, dealing.
Armor is 6 for Vanguard.
Okay, so yeah, 7 damage goes through, which destroys it. Alright, moving on. Next up, my Jerboa is going to do a forward observation on her Crusader 4, and she will react by trying to jam it with her skirmisher. I need 4s, she needs 3s. There's a 6, 7 for me, and a 5 for her, so that her jam fails. And then I just need a 4 to complete the observation. I got it. And my Chevalier Hammer will react with a fire mission. Alright, Chevalier reacts. I need 4s to her 4 as well. I'm going to go ahead and spin my command point. Reroll. It's a 5. No way, okay. And you got a 5 as well?
Yes.
So that will hit. So, damage 9 versus armor.
For my Crusader, it's 8.
8. So that would do 1 damage, but because I have AP 3, you would take 3 damage.
Okay.
And with that, we go to Peace River. Just kidding. He still gets his action, his second action, which will be to fire. He's going to brace and fire his long gun at this skirmisher over here, who has cover. I need 4s. What do you need?
I need 3.
3s. Alright. That's a 4. Becoming a 5 with precise. You got 3, so that's smart excess of 2. Plus 8, so that's 10 damage versus armor 5, so you take 5 damage. And that skirmisher is crippled. You want
CP.
Gonna roll your other command point?
Yeah.
Go ahead. That'll be a 5. Mine is a 5 as well. Precise. So that'll be 8 damage, so you take 3. 3 damage instead of 5. Still crippled though, alright?
Yes.
Alright, on to Peace River. Alright, and for Peace River, she activated her Crusader 4, which braces, and is going to fire into my Grenadier here, who has cover. So I need 3s to her 4s. It's 4, 5, 6 versus 7. So, mark success 1 plus damage.
Damage is 9.
So 10 damage versus armor 7. So 3 damage goes through. Grenadier is crippled. And with that, we move on to her last model to activate, the other Crusader. Alright, this Crusader is going to brace and fire its rocket pod into my crippled Chasseur. So, I need 4s to her 3. So I got a 5, 6 for mine. And a 5 for her. So that will miss, unfortunately. You got one more command point. You want to spend it?
Yeah.
Actually, you don't have one more command point. You only had 2. Because you lost one of your groups.
Oh.
Alright. That is it for Peace River. Alright, for Nucoal, we got my Chasseur here. It's going to fire into the Crusader. It did brace, and I burst. So I need 4s. So that's a 5, 6.
I think since I brace, I only get 2, right?
Yes. 5, 6. So that is equal. Margin excess of 0. I don't think this will penetrate with damage of 6. Armor.
8
Yep.
armor.
Bounces off. Alright, moving on. Same thing with this guy here. He's going to brace and use his frag. So, needing 4s. 6, 7 versus 6. Margin success of 1 plus 6 or 7 damage. Armor 8. So that bounces off as well. Yep. Alright, moving on. And I have no more Chasseurs. So with that, that brings us to the end of round 3 as we go to the last round of round 4. Alright, starting off with initiative. Nope. And with that, Peace River gets first activation. Starting off with the Warrior Vanguard, which is combat speed forward and is going to fire with the precise ability into my Grenadier, who has cover. So 3s, nothing. And that's a 6. 7 with precise. What's the damage?
7.
14, 7 armor, 7 damage. That Grenadier gets wiped out. Alright, on to the next one. Alright, going back to Nucoal's activation, I activated my Long Gunner, which did a top speed to this objective and is going to fire into her Crusader. So I need 3s to her 4s. That's a 5, 6. Yeah, that'll miss. Moving on. And lastly, this Long Gunner is going to brace and fire at her Crusader here. So I need 3s to her 4s. It's a 6. Nothing. Oof. You want to spend your command point?
I don't have a command point.
You do. This is a new round.
Oh, okay. Then yeah.
That's double 6s. Alright. It will tie it up because I have precise. So margin success of 0. Damage 8. Armor 8. No damage. I don't have AP. Alright. On to Peace River's activation. Alright, Crusader 4 is going to brace and fire the rocket pod into my crippled chasseur. I need 4s. She needs 4s as well. Nothing for me. 4 for her. Plus damage.
Damage is 8.
8. So it'll be 12. Armor of 6. 6 damage goes through. That one gets annihilated. Alright, moving on. Next up, this Crusader is going to brace, fire its rocket pod into my Long Gunner. I need 3s. It's a 4. And 6, 7 to her. So it's 3 plus damage.
8 damage.
8. So it'll be 4 damage to that Long Gunner. Alright. And then lastly is her Skirmisher. Alright, lastly this Skirmisher is bracing and going to try and take out my Jerboa, who is in cover but is crippled. So I need 3s. Oh, that's 6, 7 for me. And 6, 7 for her with precise. Damage?
6.
6. Armor 4. That's 2 damage goes through. He's on 1 wound left. And with that, we go to Nucoal's activation. Starting off, Jerboa, doing electronic warfare. We're going to do a forward observation on the Skirmisher. Just need a 4. No, I don't get it. Alright. Moving on then, we'll do my Chevalier, which will brace and fire at that Skirmisher. So this will be 3 dice, 4 versus your 1, because you did brace. That's nothing. So that misses as well. Moving on to this guy here. He's gonna combat speed onto this objective and fire his long gun at the Crusader. 2 dice versus 3, needing 4s. I have precise, so that's a 5, and that is a 6, so that will miss as well. And with that, we would go to Peace River. Peace River has no more groups to activate, and it's just my chasseur. He'll brace and fire at that Crusader. Needing 4s with the burst. And 1 more die. It'll be a 6. She needs 4s. 6 as well. So that will hit. Damage 6 will not penetrate. And that brings us to the end of round 4. So we'll count up the points. See who wins. Alright, so we have 2 points for the hold objective, and then 1 point for capture, and an additional point for wipe them out, for a total of 4 victory points for Nucoal. And Peace River has 2 points for the hold objective, and then 1 point for wipe them out, with a 4-3 Nucoal victory. Thanks for watching, guys.